thanks for joining us in this session. I am joined by Tim Arthur, who is the Creative Director at Virgin Money. Tim, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So it'd be great if you could just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a bit about your journey and how you got to this incredible position.
Hello. My name's Tim Arthur. I'm the Creative Director, as you said, at Virgin Money. That means that I'm in charge of all our marketing, brand, digital, customer experience, and external communications. So effectively here, I look after the customer in every touch point and make sure that they have a nice journey through any kind of exchange they have with us as a company. I'm also in charge of what's called radical innovation.
What is that?
Radical innovation is just trying to make sure that we push everything that we can to make sure we're different and differentiated in the marketplace. There's one of the Virgin values which is called smart disruption, and it means that you look at business in a different way and you're always trying to look at how you can improve it, how you can make it better. And it's those joining of words that's really important. It's smart disruption rather than just being, I don't know, innovative just for the sake of it, or it's about coming up with new solutions to problems that people have and looking at it in a fresh way. And I think that's something working with the Virgin brand it allows us to do.
What a fantastic job you have. Can I have it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're done.
But you've had such a kind of interesting kind of career because you've worked at Timeout, and you've been a host of a radio show and some stand-up comedy. So tell me a bit about those.
Yeah, I've just had a really bizarre career. I've been incredibly lucky. I started my life as a baby, and then I got older. I went to university, did a degree in religious studies, which didn't set me up for anything at all. Not even to become a priest. It wasn't even a theology degree. And then I decided I had to get a job. And the only thing I really knew was from my family were in theatre and television. So I started writing plays. So first bit of my career I was a playwright and a theatre director. But that didn't really earn enough money. I got by, but it didn't really earn enough money to have a family and buy a house and all that kind of stuff.
Especially not in London.
Not in London, no. Nobody can afford to live in London. I don't even care what job you've got. It's ridiculous. And then I went from playwriting to journalism because it was a way to earn extra money. So I started writing at Timeout. At this point, I was doing a bit of performing as well. So I was doing a little bit of stand-up and improv comedy. And then I ran a homelessness charity called Cardboard Citizens, which works with homeless people and teaches them how to reintegrate, I guess, using theatre techniques, how they reintegrate into society. And that's, I think, where I got the sense of purpose. Purpose is really important to me. Any job I take, there has to be something in it where I go, this is going to make the world a little bit better. It may be only a little bit better, but it's quite important to me. And then after Cardboard Citizens, I went to Timeout. I started off as the comedy editor there, which was that was not a proper job. It's brilliant. I spent all my time just going to see comedians, interview comedians. It was fantastic. But I took over all their digital platforms there, started the live events business. Then they made me editor-in-chief, which was probably the best job I've ever had. It was incredible. And then after that, they made me global CEO, which is also pretty cool. And there, again, the purpose there was just to try and make people's lives better, actually. Timeout is a fantastic organisation that really just tries to show people hidden gems. Like, we all work really hard, but what's important is the bits you do outside of work. As much as what you do inside work, it's what you do with your life. And it's the things you go and see and the things you eat and the people you spend time with, and that was what Timeout was about. So that was great, and then I took a small break, and then the CEO of Virgin Money, an amazing woman called Jane Ann, got in touch and said, would I come and speak to her about coming to Virgin Money? And I said, I've got no financial background. Why would I come? Why would you want me? And she said, well, come and speak to us. We do things slightly differently. And I found her such an inspirational lady. She's quite incredible. And she has this ethos for the bank, which is called EBO, everyone's better off, that she genuinely believes that everything we do should make everyone's lives better off. And she has a really big vision for us trying to change society and people's relationship with banking. And also banking, the whole sector of banking is changing. It's digitising. What we consider a bank now will be nothing like what banks are like in 5 years' time. And I was really interested in that whole change. And so that's how I ended up here. it's really exciting.
Amazing. What a journey.
Yeah, weird one, but it's been
Weird,
good.
but got you there.
Yeah.
And so throughout all those kind of positions, particularly, the stand-up comedy, very brave.
Yep.
And as you said earlier, a bit nuts, but
Yep.
and also kind of hosting a radio show and just generally through doing lots of public speaking. Have you got any kind of standout times when you've done something, you've come off and you've been buzzing and that's been amazing, a really good experience of speaking?
Yes, I did a public speaking gig in America, which was really weird. Somebody just phoned me up out of the blue when I was CEO of Timeout and said, would I fly to America and do this talk about the future of digital technology and content, I think it was. And it was one of these things where I just went, yes, and I didn't really ask who they were even that much. They were going to pay me.
Sounds fun.
You see, I thought that's fun. They're going to pay me. They're going to fly me out to Florida. I thought that'd be all right. And it turned out they were this really big corporate, and there were about 1,000 people in the room. And the stage was right in the middle, like a boxing ring, effectively. And it was just one of those lucky scenarios where everything went right, and it really worked. It was really funny. It was really buzzy, and they filmed it, which I wasn't sort of expecting. But it's apparently now it's played in their offices constantly.
Oh, wow.
On the walls, which is really kind of weird.
So people are seeing you all the time.
All the time, yeah. But it was just one of those examples where I'd put the talk together, and then I'd really worked on it. So I'd practiced quite a lot, and it was a subject that I was really passionate about. And I think that was kind of the key to it. It wasn't difficult, and I wasn't nervous about speaking about the subject because it was something that I really wanted to communicate, and it was something I knew about. I wasn't bluffing it. I wasn't trying to bullshit my way through anything. I was actually saying, this is the stuff that I'm really interested in at the moment, and I want to share it. And it went brilliantly. Yeah. It was it was a real success.
But it's so true, isn't it? If it's something you're passionate about and that you're naturally interested in and have experience of, then you know that even if, you get up there and you have a bit of a frozen moment, you're still going to be able to talk about it because it's inside you, it's your bread and butter, it's what you know and what you're inspired by. If you are trying to bullshit, that's when you're like, oh God, I've got to write a ton of notes, and that's when you get overly nervous because you think, if I forget that, I won't know what to say. So doing talks about things you're passionate about is critical.
Yeah, and those are the ones where I think I did a one-man show in Edinburgh about 10 years ago now, and that was about a certain thing that happened in my life. And loads of people went, were you really nervous about doing that? It's an hour of you just talking to an audience at the festival. And actually, because of the subject matter, I wasn't at all. It was something that had happened to me that was deeply personal, but I thought could help people who'd been in a similar situation, and I genuinely just loved doing it. So again, it's that the ones that I get nervous about are big presentations that have got lots of facts and figures, and that you've constantly got to, or you're trying to impress people. If you're trying to sell, I've done big sales pitches effectively across the city when I was working for Timeout and all sorts of places. When you're talking to shareholders and things all the time, and those are really pressured, and they're a very different. You're doing those because you have to do them. They're a business pitch. But again, the key that I found there was just to be just practice, so that the figures and numbers are in your head like the second nature. And then just to be yourself, because if you try and be something that you're not, that's when I've always failed. That's when it's always gone wrong. So
that's great advice. And because you've had an amazing experience, have you had any times when it hasn't gone to plan?
Yes. So it was brilliant. So the company that I went to the States with liked this first talk so much that they invited me back about 3 months later for a different section of the company. So we did do the exact same talk. And it just went so badly wrong. Everything went wrong with it. And it was stupid. It was partly because I'd got cocky, really. I was like, I know this is going to work. I was brilliant last time. So I didn't practice enough and I didn't rehearse. And then the microphone didn't work. They couldn't get the slides up that I wanted. And I hadn't actually spent the time to make sure that all the tech stuff was right. And I didn't look at where all the screens were and things. So that threw me. But the biggest thing that threw me was I entered to this loud piece of music, and it was in a conference room. It was in a big conference centre, and there were 2 rooms next to each other. And unbeknownst to me, in the next centre was a conference of Catholic priests.
Ooh.
And they were starting their day the same time that I was starting my speech with a prayer session. And I had this big thumping rock music that brought me on. And so I came on, did my bit, and just as I started to speak, this really angry Irish priest appeared through the door and shouted in front of her husband, and goes, "What the hell do you think's going on in there? Would you turn it down? We're trying to pray." And it is very difficult to recover from being told off by a priest. And it literally nobody helped out as well. Nobody went and tried to calm him down. And he just walked right to the front and had to go at me like it was my fault. And then he left, and it was just a car crash. After that, I should have just given up.
Yeah,
being told off by a priest.
Yeah,
and that can happen.
It's very hard to recover from.
It is, but I think I think I more or less got back on top of it.
Yeah.
But it is really difficult. But those things will happen when you're doing public speaking. Anything can go wrong, and the best thing is just not to beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, because so many things are out of your control, aren't they? Like the microphone, you can't help that. That's the tech's job, and you can't.
Yeah.
You can't make it happen.
Yeah, and I think the thing. I mean, actually, I think people in the room didn't think it was as bad as I did. I beat myself up, and that always happens. If you stumble on some words, if you forget something, or you pause slightly while you're trying to think, those pauses seem like hours to you, but to an audience watching, it's just a normal interaction, and they're fine with it. So the best thing I think in public speaking is not to beat yourself up about any mistake you make. And if something goes wrong like that with the Catholic priest who turned up, you sort of have to be alive enough to comment on it, because there's no point in that happening and then you going, all right, now on to slide 3. It's like you have to, the room has changed, so you have to kind of comment on it. And that was sort of, I had to sort of joke my way through it and then back into the session. I mean, I don't think, they were still very nice to me. They didn't invite me back again for a third time, so maybe I wasn't that great.
You're not in their office, that video.
That one might not be. Unless it might be on YouTube somewhere, just the public speaking and shouted at, but yeah.
Have you got kind of any tips or techniques for kind of keeping the audience engaged when you're talking, or any kind of tips for public speaking in general? I mean, you've already touched on some. But...
the biggest tip is just to, for me, is just to speak slowly, because as soon as you walk on stage, 'cause you've got so much adrenaline flowing through you, you'll speak at about 10 times the pace that you think you're going to be speaking. So if you just slow down, even if it feels unnaturally slow to you, it will be just about right. Just be conversational. And the other thing is to think about your audience. Visualize your audience, not as something that's going to judge you. Because I think people who get really scared of public speaking, I think it's called glossophobia. It's a fear of public speaking. And it's really a fear of being judged, that everyone's looking at you and they're judging you. And the fact is, some of them will be judging you. That is true. But actually most of them just want to hear what you've got to say. Yeah. And if you think of them as ordinary people, now that's been the biggest thing to me. Just before I go on, I really talk to myself and visualise them as just a group of friends. I don't get nervous when I'm talking to you. I don't get nervous when I'm talking to my wife. I don't get nervous at a dinner party when I'm talking to people, because they're just people, and you doesn't interact with them normally. And if you can really get to that point where you're just imagine that you're talking to a group of friends, or even just one friend, it just takes the pressure off a lot. So that, and then just to relax before it. I do a bit of mindfulness, which really works, kind of just getting you present and in that moment. And then the other thing that I've managed to do over the years is turn nerves into excitement. You sort of is not be overwhelmed by something, but just get excited and kind of go, oh, that's kind of good, isn't it? And then sort of bounce on. Biggest thing as well is I don't use notes, so never take notes on with me, because I found as soon as I had notes, it would make me clench up. You'd hold it and then it'd be something like that, and it was difficult to read, and so I do everything without notes. As soon as I gave away notes, it was brilliant.
That's interesting. Yeah.
PowerPoint, another lovely tip if you're using PowerPoint is to have a screen, if you can, have the screen in front of you there that shows you the next slide. So you're not constantly looking behind you for the prompt of what it is. You just see what it is and you can more naturally get into your flow. That's a really nice, simple technique that people can do. And just smile at the audience, first of all. Just go out and smile. And when you smile, you feel better about yourself. It makes them feel more comfortable. Because that's one of the big things. As long as they're feeling comfortable with you, if you look nervous, it'll make them feel uncomfortable. And then the whole vibe in the room gets weird. And actually, if you just go out and smile and say hello and go straight into your stuff, you relax the audience. As soon as they're relaxed, you're relaxed, and you get on with it. But imagine,
People aren't often thinking, are they? They're not like, oh, that person's getting up to talk now. They're not
No.
thinking that way. You are, because you're the one getting up to talk. But actually, other people aren't really bothered in a way.
no, they actually want you to. They want you to be good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
nobody's sitting there going, "God, I hope this next guy's crap, so I can take the piss out of him."
Exactly.
Like that's
Let me
not.
get my phone out. to
Yeah,
film
yeah. Oh, look at that. He was awful. Like no, they actually want you to be good, and they want to hear what you're going to say. Most times when you do a speech, people are interested in what you're going to say. But again, it goes to that thing, the passion of your own passion. If you are passionate about something, genuinely passionate about something, it will translate. And if it's your own business, say, for instance, if you're going around, even when you're pitching for investment and stuff, if it's your own business, you should be passionate about it, or else don't do that business. If you don't feel you've got a strong purpose for what you do, don't do it and go and find something you can be. And then once you've got that passion and purpose, it's pretty easy to sell, because then you're just talking about the things that you genuinely believe in, and that's really infectious. People who are passionate, it just catches the imagination much more, and you don't have to overthink stuff then.
Tim, that is such great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure.